Yo, what's up, Blackest fam? I hope all is going well in the world around you. Man, as we continue going through Black Thought's catalog, I came across something that's relatively new. It looks like it's from the end of 2020. And think about that, we were already in the pandemic. It's not that often that I find new music from Black Thought, right? But I'm going back through his catalog, and we're breaking down his lyrics, right? We're trying to understand the context, everything he's trying to say. And man, there's so much history, there's so much knowledge that he's trying to put out in the world. So I think it's only right that we do our part and just really break down the bars and understand what he's trying to say. This is Black Thought. This is actually featuring Portugal the Man. So I thought that was interesting. But let's get right into it.
P is for the city. P is for the city. P is for the city.
P is for the city. So I think that's
P is for the city.
He's from Philadelphia.
P is for the city. P is for the city. P is for the city where it all began.
I'm in Ernest Hemingway, portrait painted by Ernie Barnes. Clean sneakers and dirty horns. Last soldier of 30 gone, who lost hope but still journeyed on. Yet I'm the reason we gon' have to get the gurney form. Karma police carrying customized.
P is for the city where it all began.
I'm in Ernest Hemingway, portrait painted by Ernie Barnes.
He said, see, he just comes in and it's like, what is he really saying? It doesn't need a breakdown from an intellectual standpoint, right? You don't need to understand the definition, but it's important that we understand who he's referencing. He said Ernest Hemingway. He said an Ernest Hemingway portrait painted by Ernie Barnes. Now, Ernest Hemingway as a writer, right? He's someone that died in the early 60s, but he was an American writer, and he had a big influence on 20th century literature. He worked as a journalist for a number of years, and then he became a novelist. A lot of people know him for his work, The Sun Also Rises, The Old Man and the Sea. He's got a variety of different stories. A lot of them, I believe he actually won a Pulitzer Prize as well. But Ernie Barnes, that's a bit different. He's actually passed away as well. But Ernie Barnes was someone that's a bit more recent. He was a 20th century artist, but he was really well known for painting pictures that depicted like movement, right, like dancing. I believe he was the first, if I'm not mistaken, the first athlete that became a relatively well-known artist. I think a lot of people know Ernie Barnes, but they don't know that he created a bunch of album covers. He did really iconic work, right? I think of what is that one called? The Sugar Shack. The Sugar Shack, I believe, is one of his most famous work. But just really interesting play of what he says there. Ernest Hemingway portrait painted by Ernie Barnes. Just you can interpret that a variety of different ways. I think it's him saying, he said, I'm an Ernest Hemingway. So it's like I'm an excellent writer. I'm an excellent writer, but it's being depicted by an even better artist, or kind of where fame meets artist. I don't know. It's let me know if you interpret that a bit differently. Really interesting how he put that.
I'm in Ernest Hemingway, portrait painted by Ernie Barnes. Clean sneakers and dirty horns. Last soldier of 30 gone, who lost hope but still journeyed on. Yet I'm the reason we gon' have to get the gurney form.
When you get the gurney, right, you're putting someone on that medical gurney. Like imagine something that's coming out of an ambulance to take someone away that's been fucked up.
Still journeyed on, yet I'm the reason we gon' have to get the gurney form. Karma police carrying customized cuffs for me. I hope these taped up.
The karma police, right? If you have good or bad karma, he said the karma police, they carry customized cuffs for me. So they're customized. Why, right? Is it because he has a bunch of karma coming his way? They knew they were coming, or is it because he's royalty and he wears everything customized? Kind of hard to play on that. There could be a variety of interpretations.
Form karma police carrying customized cuffs for me. I hope these taped up guns is still bust for me. I had the whole.
When you think of a gun still going off, there's a variety variety of different reasons why, right? It either fell in the water, or like you don't know if it's gonna work the same. When I think of a taped up gun, I either think of the taped up handle, or I think of one that's being taped under something, like under a toilet, under a table, normally in the hood. You stash your gun, right? Because you never know if somebody's going to run into your home. You never know what's going to happen or where you might be. So you might have a gun, boom, right? Someone's like, yo, give me your money. Like, yo, I got you. Boom, 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 right? And let loose on their ass. So let me know if you're understanding that differently, or if you're understanding the tape on the gun.
Demise cuffs for me. I hope these taped up guns are still bust for me. I had the whole world, it wasn't enough for me. It got me feeling like the Lord lost trust for me. I made a means to an end when there were no wins. I burnt bridges I'd sworn to be eternal friends, the last ones I ever intended to turn against. Until
it sounds like he's really looking at his own life, right? We call this being introspective. He's just getting deep on him, right? His approach to the world, right? He said, I hope these taped up guns still bust for me. That could be a play on putting the guns on the back burner, right? Putting them somewhere, like taping them up, putting them aside, but still needing them. He's like, I hope they still work when I need them, and I can get those guys out, even though I put that stuff on the back burner. That could be an interpretation of it. He's saying, yo, I had the whole world, but it wasn't enough, right? He said that something about the Lord lost trust in him, right?
Wanna be eternal friends, the last ones I ever intended to turn against. Enough for me. It got me feeling like the Lord lost trust for me. I made a means to an end when there were no wins. I burnt bridges I'd sworn to be eternal friends.
When you burn bridges, you ruin relationships, right? If I burn a bridge with you, I did something to put you off or turn you against me. So again, he's talking about his own life, and he said, I had sworn to be eternal friends, right? We'd be friends forever. So what is he talking about? Is he talking about his relationship with the Lord, or is he talking about actual relationships in the real world that are suffering because of something he did?
I hope these taped up guns are still bust for me. I had the whole world, it wasn't enough for me. It got me feeling like the Lord lost trust for me. I made a means to an end when there were no wins. I burnt bridges I'd sworn to be eternal friends, the last ones I ever intended to turn against. Until
maybe he is talking about actual people, right? He said the last ones I ever intended to turn against, right? Maybe someone that he loved or people he loved, but he did them wrong for some reason.
No wins. I burnt bridges I'd sworn to be eternal friends, the last ones I ever intended to turn against. Until we grew our separate ways like fraternal twins. So to the chosen few.
Fraternal twins, right? There's two different types of twins most people know of: identical twins and fraternal twins. Fraternal twins, they come together, but they separate, right? A fraternal twin, you could actually have one girl, one boy. At some point, they separated. Yo, sick. They're not Siamese, right? They're not connected or anything.
Grew our separate ways like fraternal twins. So to the chosen few with whom I need to reconcile, my mother's mother, my only brother, my second child.
Okay, yeah. So there are actual people that he said I need to reconcile, right? That means that you need to go back and check something. Like you need to reconcile your books, right? You need to check your books. Something's not adding up. He said there's a chosen few with whom I need to reconcile.
Ways like fraternal twins. So to the chosen few with whom I need to reconcile, my mother's mother, my only brother, my second child. I've always loved you, although that was rarely said aloud. So take forever, I guess better late than never proud.
Listen. In the billows with the apple on my head.
That's nice. Yo, what did he say though? He said my mother's mother, right? That's his grandmother, my only brother, and my second child. Right? And he said there's a chosen few with whom he needs to reconcile. So it sounds like these are the people in his life. He said, I always loved you, even though that was rarely said aloud, right? So maybe he's just making moves. He's not telling people how he truly feels.
In the billows.
The chosen few with whom I need to reconcile, my mother's mother, my only brother, my second child. I've always loved you, although that was rarely said aloud. So take forever, I guess better late than never proud. Listen.
Better right? So he is proud. Yo, and that chorus just came in nice.
I've always loved you, although that was rarely said aloud. So take forever, I guess better late than never proud.
Breathe in the billows with the apple on my head.
Breathe in the bellows. That's not something you hear too often. That's actually, there's a term for that. It's called the stimulating breath, right? It's called bellows breathing. It's a yoga breathing technique. It's supposed to energize the body, the mind, right? It include alertness and clarity. But it's also used by some to lose weight, right? It increases your digestive power, and basically increases your metabolism, so you're burning more calories, if you would.
Never proud.
Breathe in the billows with the apple on my head.
Breathe in the bellows, so they're in this position. They're practicing this breathing technique, right? Calm, but there's an apple on your head. Normally, you think of a bow and arrow, or they're gonna shoot the apple. So it's like I'm a target, but I'm just chilling here peacefully. It's kind of how I'm reading it.
So take forever, I guess better late than never proud.
Breathe in the billows with the apple on my head. Hard to gain perspective with the world in your hands. Gonna try.
It reminds me of what Kanye said, right? He said, hard to be humble when you're stunting on a jumbotron, right? He's saying the same thing. He's like, hard to gain perspective when you have the whole world in your hands, right? When you're given so much.
My head. Hard to gain perspective with the world in your hands. Gonna drown in the shallows, ashes in the bay. Never looking back until there's nothing in my way.
Yeah, identify with the dead or the living, I don't know. Maybe my people set up to fall like a domino. America.
Identify with the dead or the living, I don't know. Is that because he relates to the people of yesteryear, right? The greats of a decade or decades ago, right? Civil rights leaders, thought leaders of yesteryear. He said, I identify with the dead or the living, I don't know. Not too sure how to interpret that.
Dead or the living, I don't know. Maybe my people set up to fall like a domino. America the beautiful, go ask Geronimo.
We just referenced Geronimo, right? And another, he was a leader. Geronimo was someone that was one of the last to be captured and taken from his tribal land, right? And put on reservations. Actually, when he was arrested, he spent the last part of his life in a prison, right? In like a concentration camp, if you would, or another form of a prison, like a prisoner of war.
Set up to fall like a domino. America the beautiful, go ask Geronimo. What's the worst they could do to?
But Geronimo would say, yo, it's an ugly world. It was beautiful before all these other people came. But it's a beautiful world depending on how you look at it, right?
America the beautiful, go ask Geronimo. What's the worst they could do to you? I bet my mama know. I bet my father.
Yo, I don't know if a lot of people know Black Thought's story. I started researching him before we started going into his catalog, and a lot of people don't understand the tragedies that he's had to endure, starting at a really young age, right? Actually, a lot of these, first, both his mother and father were both members of the Nation of Islam. Nation of Islam, you might think of black nationalism, you might think of Malcolm X, you might think of Louis Farrakhan. So that also helps explain why he's so intellectual and why he thinks the way he does, right? The Nation of Islam does not play, right? These brothers do not play. Think about Muhammad Ali, right? Cassius Clay. Why did he change his name, right? Because of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He said that he opened his eyes, right? But anyway, Black Dodg, his real name is Tariq Trotter. He was born about 10 years before me. So think about that. I was born in 1982. I'm 39 years old. He's 10 or 11 years older, so he's got to be 50. Right, this is an older brother, but he wasn't even a year old when his dad was killed. not a lot of detail. I'd never really heard through anything that I've seen him go into much detail about his dad. But there was an interview in the New York Times where he said that he was told that his dad was a kind person and very respectful. But he's this kid who had so much tragedy. At one point, he was 6 years old. He was living in Philly, living in this apartment, and he was playing with these army soldiers, you know, those little green army soldiers. And this was an incident that would eventually impact his brother quite a bit. And I wonder if that's how he's, what he's referencing in this, talking about his brother. But basically, he used to use this lighter, and he would melt the little toys. And he wanted to make it seem like they were wounded, like they were fighting each other. And he said he did this a bunch of times, but on one particular occasion, a lighter got too hot. It burned his hand, and he was like, and threw it, and it actually started a fire. The fire department came. They were able to put out the fire, but Black Dot's brother was already 14 at the time. Keep in mind, Black Dot was 6, right? His older brother was 14. They accused them of some crime that came from that. I don't know exactly what it was. It was something about theft. But basically a fight happened, and his brother was arrested. And that basically started a whole string of incidents where he was just in and out of jail. Black Dot, as he came of age, he was in and out of jail. Well, not jail, but he claims that he was arrested when he was like 12 years old, but it was for tagging. He was tagging up a basketball court. I've done that too in Chicago. He would sell crack cocaine, and he was trying to make money. And then when his people found out, I think he had to go live with his uncle or so, but they shipped him off to Detroit to start new. Kind of like the where I was born and raised, most of my days, right? The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But anyway, his mom's name is Cassandra Trotter, and again, he's Tariq Trotter. But his mom was a crack addict. She was a crackhead, right? And right after he came back to Philly, he was going to go to high school, and he was told that his mom was missing. Not a big deal for a crackhead to go missing. So, he's talking about calling the hospitals, jails, morgues, anyone that knows someone in the family that's an addict. When they don't come home, you wait a bit, you call their friends, depending on their age, you call the parents, but you have a checklist, right? Call the hospitals to see if they're injured, if they're maybe they're not conscious, right? Call the jails to see if they're picked up, maybe they can't call collect. And then unfortunately call the morgue and see if you have a John Doe or a Jane Doe. Now that means somebody that's not able to be identified. But he did that, and a woman matching the description of his mom was at a morgue. They confirmed it with the dental records. His mom was stabbed to death by this young cat that was in Philly that really just lived a few blocks from her. So it's just tragic, right? So he lost both his mom and dad. One would argue that he lost his mom well before that if she was addicted to crack. But I think that's important to what he says. He says, America the beautiful, go ask Geronimo. And they said, what's the worst they can do to you? I bet my mama know. If you know the story of his mom and her becoming a crackhead and getting murdered, that line is just dark and deep. Like your mom, right? No, but no, it's something to think about. It gives you a whole other. That's why I like breaking down the bars. Is if you don't understand that story, that bar won't mean as much.
Back until there's nothing in my way.
Yeah, identify with the dead or the living, I don't know. Maybe my people set up to fall like a domino. America the beautiful, go ask Geronimo. What's the worst they could do to you? I bet my mama know. I bet my father know. Your honor, throw the book at us. Even if justice wasn't blind, she'd never look at us.
Ooh, that bar. Look at what he said. He said, I bet my dad know, right? Or something. Let me just run it back. He said, I bet my father know. Kind of playing on know your honor, almost as if you were talking to a judge, right? A judge and throw the book at us.
What's the worst they could do to you? I bet my mama know. I bet my father know. Your honor, throw the book at us. Even if justice wasn't blind, she'd never look at us.
Again, he's playing on the justice system. system, right? By honor, throw the book at us, talking about justice, right? Everybody says justice is blind, or it's supposed to be. He said, even if justice wasn't blind, she'd never look at us, right? We're people that are overlooked quite often, literally. Yo.
I bet my father know your honor, throw the book at us. Even if justice wasn't blind, she'd never look at us. I want that clutch of what I could not touch. I was trying to get what I could get before I get locked up. And when that death clock struck, I was depressed enough to go ahead and press my luck. They held me down so long, I figured I should just rise up like helium from the delirium. Trying to change my...
Rise up like helium from the delirium. I think a lot of people understand what helium is, right? Helium is what you put in balloons. That's what makes it rise up and float, right? You go to the dollar store to get your balloons, right? For some graduation party or whatnot, they fill it up using helium or a helium tank. But he said delirium. You don't really hear delirium being used much anymore, but it's a mental. Like you'll hear people say delirious. Right? It's like this mental instability, almost like you're a psychopath. But if you're delirious, you're super confused. You don't have awareness of the world around you, and the deterioration is extremely rapid. So there's different words and different levels to being crazy, but delirium is one. He said, when he said they held me down so long, I should rise up like helium from the delirium, right? So I'm going to rise up past all this bullshit and these mental issues and all this bad shit that's going on. I have to rise from the crowd. Yo, man, that is just sick.
Just rise up like helium from the delirium. Trying to change my skin color like a chameleon, but all my best years are...
Most people know chameleon because they talk about chameleon paint jobs, but the actual animal, if you would, chameleon can adapt to its surroundings, right? So a chameleon, if it were standing in front of this, it would camouflage itself to look like this. And that's what he's saying. He's trying to change my skin color like a chameleon. There's a lot of people that do that. I got friends that used to wash their face with cocoa butter because they think it would make them lighter, right? And it's like, like Malcolm X used to say, who told you to hate you? Who told you your hair was nappy? Who told you your hair was wrong and your color was wrong, right? You got to appreciate yourself and understand and know yourself.
I change my skin color like a chameleon, but all my best years of life behind are still ahead of me. What would I leave behind if I was over everything? The foundation for...
Again, he's being introspective, right? He said, are the best years of my life still in front of me, or have I already experienced those? And he said, what would I leave behind if I was over everything? Now, that might sound suicidal, like what would I leave behind if I just took my own life? But I also look at it as like, what would I leave behind if I was over everything, like a bird's eye view? And again, I don't know exactly, he's more likely to be talking about taking his own life, but that's just what I thought of first.
Behind are still ahead of me. What would I leave behind if I was over everything? The foundation for creation of a better me. That's honestly the true definition of legacy. Do it.
In the billows with the apple on my head. Hard to gain perspective with the world in your hands. Gonna drown in the shallow, ashes in the bay. Devil on my back and there's a demon in my way.
God damn it.
Told you once, can't fool me twice. Hate to be.
Listen to what they said, right? A lot of people know this from when George Bush messed it up. I said, told you once, can't fool me twice. And the actual story, there's a story that helps you understand this. It says, a stranger goes up to you, right? And he asks you for a few dollars. He says, I lost my job. I really need some money to get some food to eat, right? You feel sorry for him, and you give him $1, right? Well, later on, you find out that the person lied to you, right? He fooled you. He fooled you once, and shame on him for doing so. So, fool me once, shame on you. Now, if the same person comes up to you a day later and they come up with the same spiel, right? Would you fall for the same trick again? Probably not, right? But if you do, that's where it says, "Fool me once, shame on you." But you can't fool me twice, right? Fool me twice, shame on me, right? I should have been smarter than that. I love that he references things like that. Even if it's just in the chorus, it just makes you think, right?
Told you once, can't fool me twice. Hate to be the bearer of bad advice. What I see before my eyes.
P is for the city. P is for the city. P is for the city.
Like the Beverly's
P
resistance.
is for the city. For the city.
Yo, they say my seed is a future threat. That's all too correct for that 2/5 of a man that barreled to your neck. God.
He said, "Yo, they say my seed, right? My kid." And shout out to the Roots for those that know Seeds 2.0. Love that song. We're gonna have to break it down because I think there's a lot of meaning there. But I push my seed in a bush for life. It's gonna work because I'm pushing it right. My baby girl tonight, I will name her rock and roll. Cadillac needs space wrong. I'm a goddamn Rolling Stone, right? Yo, that's just a sick song from yesteryear, and we might actually get to that to do a breakdown. But he said my seed is a future threat. That's all too correct, right? My parents were both part of the Black nationalism movement, or part of, I don't want to say the Black Panther Party, but the Nation of Islam. Think about how intelligent Black thought is, and if he were just able to download half of what he knows into his seed, right? Just gonna be a kid that might be, think about how musically inclined he might be, right? He's around the roots. His father is Black thought. His grandparents are from this Black nationalism movement, or it's just I think we should all be on the lookout for that, right? But I think it's really interesting what he says about 2/5 of a man.
For the city.
Yo, they say my seed is a future threat. That's all too correct for that 2/5 of a man that battled.
See, a lot of people are able to reference 3/5 of a man, right? That's actually what before they called you. Before you were a slave, and then even after that, you were only considered 3/5 of a man. But 2/5 of a man, it doesn't really get that much attention. But the meaning behind that is a Black man in what was called a free state was worth 2/5 more than a Black man in a slave state for a basis of political power under the Constitution. So therefore, it encouraged slavery. The Constitution encourages freedom by giving an increase of 2/5 of political power to free over slave states. Does that make sense? Again, as a better understanding, most people simply refer to the 3/5 of a man. So I don't know that this is as important, but it's history, right? I think it's important to understand where these terms come from, and they help us reference things and understand the context of other things in his lyrics.
Yo, they say my seed is a future threat. That's all too correct for that 2/5 of a man that battled to your neck. God damn it, the hot hammer, get all due respect for the young cell block cannon that cause you collect after running multiple rings like the dream team trying to breathe.
The dream team, man. Shout out to the dream team of the 90s. That's the Olympics, right? The dream team was that famous basketball team. That's what I think of. But like Charles Barkley, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, right? That's the dream team. And he's talking about the rings they got, right? We all kind of understand what the rings mean.
Running multiple rings like the dream team trying to.
After running multiple rings, like a ring to, like a conspiracy ring, right? Or a drug ring or a crime ring. That's like having your hand in a variety of things in the underworld, right? Or on the other side of the legit world. These rings are, you might be flipping cars, you might be selling stolen parts, you might be selling weight, you might be putting out this. those are also rings. So he's talking about after running multiple rings, but running multiple rings like the Dream Team in the Olympics, right? And everybody knows that icon. Yo, that's just awesome wordplay. I don't know if a lot of cats are gonna catch that.
For the young cell block cannon that cause you collect after running multiple rings like the Dream Team, trying to breathe and touch keys like Kasim Dean, Supreme Cream.
Trying to breathe and touch keys, right? Like Kasim Dean. Who knows Kasim Dean? That's a little trivia right there. That's actually the real name, the government name, the Swiss Beats, right? Swiss Beats is with Alicia Keys. They have kids together and such, right? So what did he say there? He said, trying to breathe and touch keys like Kasim Dean, right? But keys, he's talking about, could be talking about a kilo, but he's also the wordplay catching Alicia Keys. Yo, that's just sick. Excellent work.
You collect after running multiple rings like the Dream Team, trying to breathe and touch keys like Kasim Dean, Supreme Cream. His hands so dirty, you seen clean. Scream murder, watching 30 for 30. Here go the theme, nigga.
Breathe in the bellows, put the apple on my head. It's hard to gain perspective with the world in your hands. Gonna drown in the shallows with the lovebirds in the bay. Never looking back until there's nothing in my way.
Peace for the city, peace for the city, peace for the city, peace for the city where it all began.
Whoa, that was sick, man. I like that.
Peace for the city, peace for the city, peace for the city, peace for.
Yo, that was just nice, man. I'm such a fan of Black Thought. Yeah, the Roots as well, but Black Thought is just something special, right? I really loved when he was co-signing Toby Wigway, and he's talking about him being the next wave, right? The next truth. Because it's true, not too many people. Well, who is, right? Who is at the level of Black Thought in the game? You might argue that a Nas or someone like that has the longevity in the game, the authentic persona, right? Has been putting out bars, man. But I don't know, right? Toby Wigway is well on his way, but he's got a long way to go. I love Marlon Craft's music, but he's got a long way to go too. I think the closest would have to be Nas or like a KRS-One, someone that has that same appeal. But I'm such a fan. If you're a fan of good music, right? If you're a fan of intellectual breakdowns, if you're a fan of Black Thought, man, don't forget to support the channel. Blackish University, Modern Day Griots. We're trying to pass information down from one generation to the next. That might be in the form of hip hop. That might be in the form of poetry. We've broken down Martin Luther King Jr. speeches, Malcolm X. We've talked about reparations. We've talked about Mansa Musa. We've talked about icons like Geronimo. We talk about things that are going on in the community, but still there's that hip hop twist. If you're a fan, the channel's been going great. We actually just started right after the start of the new year. We're already pushing 400 or 500 subscribers, and we're just trying to keep the wave going. Create this platform where we just have a place where we can get down with these intellectual breakdowns and start going through these catalogs and really understanding what these artists were trying to put forward in the world. I hope you subscribe.